Welcome back to Race Week. The Turkey Derby event has always been one of the more popular fall events to be run. What makes it so special is the fact that it offers a great challenge. It is a rare opportunity for individuals of the Modified Tour or other local weekly race facilities to try their skills at the Wall Stadium. And they're teamed up against some of the very best that competes there on a regular basis. Speaking of the very best, now it's time to put it all to the test. Now, who's it going to be? One of the stars of the Modified Tour, a local favorite from Wall, or perhaps one of the weekly runners at some other race facility? Well, now it was time to put the equipment to the test. And the experts would be starting right up front in row number 1. Marty Truex and Reggie Ruggiero would make up that front row. Ken Woolley and John Ballew in row number 2. Jamie DeMano and Lenny Boyd making up row number 3. Everybody was ready, anticipating the start of this event. In rows of 2, they anticipated and went to green. Truex on the inside, but Ruggiero would get the bite initially from the start and literally start to pull away. Further back in the pack, things were already starting to get shuffled up a bit when John Ballew would try to run the outside as Truex would try to keep it nice and low. Ken Woolley was right there to contend with Truex on his back bumper. So wasn't Jamie DeMano. In car number 22, well, Lenny Boyd, a local favorite, was running strong to the outside. Kyle Petty wasn't looking too bad. When contact would be made, trouble would develop. This time, it would be Tony Ferrante involved in the mix-up. Everham would also be a part of this act with car number 19. The pro-bodied car looked the worst for the damage. And Mikey Winitsko, young contender on the Modified Tour, he was trying desperately to get back to the pit area. But when it was back to green, John Ballew was holding off the pressures as Reggie Ruggiero was now the star of this show at the front of the field. Marty Truex was knocking on heaven's door and anxiously trying to take over position number 1. But it was the Reg who was holding on. The pressure was being applied. Then suddenly in turn 1, Truex would literally send Ruggiero around. Reggie Ruggiero, once the leader of the event, now found himself going to the back of the pack. And who started all of this? Well, the man that now leads the event, and that, of course, is Martin Truex. As the field was ready to go back to green, Ruggiero was questioning why he would have to go to the rear. But when it was up to speed, it was Truex in command of the event. Ken Woolley was running in the number 2 spot. Jamie DeMano was running in 3rd, and Doug Wilcott was running strong. Tommy Bowles ran well for a while, then a mechanical problem forced him out of contention. Ruggiero, Iwanitsko, a lap car. Now Everham would make contact and send the Nerf bar literally sliding on the racetrack up high in turn number 1, just in front of the lead pack of cars. Well, things were okay. Further back in the pack, Kyle Petty was dicing it up with Everham. Prescott was still there to contend. Everham was literally sideways at one point, but Kyle Petty was showing he could muster up enough in an open-wheel race car. And Gil Hearn was looking strong for a while when Jerry Cramner would dive to the inside. Then Hearn's car would start to puff a little smoke. The zero-scrub suspension for Tom Baldwin was working okay, but okay just wasn't good enough on this afternoon. Then suddenly, Everham was in trouble again, and so wasn't Jamie DeMano. He wasn't the only car involved in the mix-up, but DeMano would try to get back to the pit area and try to resume in the competition here. Back to green, Ken Woolley was looking strong. He was among the top 4 cars as Cramner would go to the outside, and Ruggiero was coming back to life. It was Cramner now in 2nd. Here comes the Reg. He's got position number 3. And then there was car number 22 for Lenny Boyd back to contend. Tom Baldwin was a factor as he'd go to the outside of Woolley, as Woolley would desperately try to maintain a spot among the top 5 cars. Then suddenly, with some help, Doug Wilcott would send Ken Woolley around. Woolley wouldn't be too pleased about this as he tried to rejoin in the competition and tell Walcott exactly how he felt about the whole deal. But back at the front of this field, Marty Truex had things well under control. Cramner was right there to contend on his back bumper, and the Reg was moving in. Tom Baldwin's zero suspension would turn in a big 0 on this day, and Doug Walcott would go around. But to the checker, the story would be told as Marty Truex would set in the winner's circle. Jerry Cramner would finish in 2nd. From the back of the pack, a great run for 3rd, Reggie Ruggiero. Lenny Boyd was 4th, and Pete Britton would round out the top 5.
Martin Truex, that's the way to win the Turkey Derby. Start up front, finish up front.
Yeah, well, I kind of blew it on the start. The motor wouldn't go on the start. It was loaded up where we rode around too long. I thought it was over with then, but we just hung on and did what we could do. So.
At the end, it didn't seem like there was anybody capable of running with you. Jerry Kramer made a couple of stabs, and then that was it.
Well, I was just trying to run out 4 or 5 laps hard, get a couple of lap cars in there, and pace myself. You look, the sway bars off the car. Like 20 laps to go, the sway bar come off. So I just was doing what I had to do.
You contacted Ruggiero in turn 1 for the lead. What happened there?
Well, I got in a little bit hard, and I might have got back in the gas before Reggie. It was a racing thing, you know. So it's the way it goes.
Yeah, we're really happy with it. We didn't really draw out of the hat the way I wanted to. We started 9th, but as the race went on, we got stronger. I just couldn't get by Martin at the end. I was a little quicker than him, I felt, but when he's your boss, you can't do too much with him anyhow.
Yeah, not many people realize you guys spend a lot of time together during the week, don't you?
Yeah, I work for him. You know, him and his brother, so you sort of have to be a little, watch what you're doing out there with Martin and when I race with Barney, but, you know, I would drive him as well as I would drive anybody else. You know, I'd run him hard, but I would never do anything to him.
Well, Reggie Ruggiero is putting his signature on some photos for some happy fans here at Wall. His day was kind of filled with mixed reactions. Reggie, you wound up finishing 3rd, a strong 3rd, but it looked like you had a good shot at the win there for a while.
Yeah, we were leading the race, I think, for about, I don't know, 30 or 40 laps, something like that. Then I got spun around by Martin Truex, who was running 2nd. He won the race. He shouldn't have won. They should have penalized him. He deliberately dumped me, but, you know, this is Wall Stadium. This ain't anywhere else, so you take it like any other race. Jack will come back next year. Car ran good all day. It was a little bit loose, and we weren't planning on coming from the back to the front, and our tire selection was a little soft, and it burned the rear tires up, so, you know, we got up to 3rd, but I had to pass a lot of fast cars, so, you know, all in all, it was a pretty good day. We made a little bit of money, but we should have made a lot more.
It seemed like your drive from the back up to 3rd was awfully quick. Did you think it would keep going past a couple of leaders, or could you feel the tires going as you came through?
No, I know Martin had a soft right rear tire. Ours was a 300. He had a 200 compound, and I could see him after a while, his tires started smoking, but he could still continue at a pretty fast pace. And at the end, I sort of fell off the pace a little bit because I had abused the tires too much to get to the front, so I just had to hang on for 3rd.
Did you think that had the contact not occurred, you'd have won the race, you'd have been able to hold them off?
Oh, yeah, I was just taking it easy at that time. The guy said, be smooth. I was just taking it easy. All of a sudden, bang from the back, around when I went. I wasn't even expecting that, and whether he just came in, missed the brake pedal, or just did it deliberately, I don't know, but he dumped me.
Up next was the MAD feature event, MAD standing for Modified Affordable Division, a division similar to the SK-type division seen here in the Northeast. The field was set, Dick Briscoe to the inside of the front row, Bob Walton to the outside, J.J. Jensen on the inside, and D.J. D'Onofrio to the outside of that row. Jim Taylor was trying to hold on to his spot when he'd get crossed up with D'Onofrio, as D'Onofrio would go around with car number 68. Off the 4th turn, it was J.J. Jensen in command. Dick Briscoe would still try to hold on for 2nd as things got diced up a little further back in the pack. Things were looking okay among the front pack of cars when suddenly it was Dave Carman who hit the wall hard in turn number 1. Carman's car would show the worst of the wear as water and liquid was literally strewn from the automobile, and Carman was able to get out and was okay. But he wasn't pleased with a fellow competitor who he felt instituted the whole situation. Back to green, there was a battle going on right at the front of the field, when suddenly in turn 1, it was more like a day at the beach than a day at the races. And guess who was involved in this one? Dick Briscoe, the man who was running in the number 2 spot. Jensen was now the leader of the event, and Jack Levette was reeling him in with car number 70. It was Jensen still trying to hold on, but the speedy drive was still a problem. Levette would gather it back nicely, but Jensen was out of sight and looking for a victory. He would hold down and take down just that. Speedway is the annual icebreaker, kicks off the season right here in the Northeast for the NASCAR Modified Tour. And when this event went to green, it was Stephen Park and the Battle of the Red, as Brian Ross would be challenged by Jeff Fuller and Mikey Winitsko. Further back in the pack, a challenge was on. Rogerio McLaughlin when suddenly things would get crossed up. Mike Stefanik would end up going over on his roof and literally take the long, safe slide down the back straightaway. Tom Baldwin, Reggie Ruggiero, and the rest of the gang were heading down pit road. But back to the racing action, it was Hirschman who was coming on strong to the outside, as suddenly Mike Stefanik would return. Showing the worst of the wear, he was in search of the points on even day number 1. And back at the front of the field, it was McLaughlin who was moving to the inside of Stephen Park late in the event to take over the lead. Park did not pit, but McLaughlin was dialed in, and he would literally start to pull away and string it out. Hirschman was even showing his talents in day number 1 with car number 1. But it was McLaughlin into the winner's circle, Hirschman in for 2nd. ESP Modifieds got a new name. They're now called the Winston Racing Series Modifieds. And there was trouble almost before the season began. John Sneed would show the worst of the way of running a convertible as car number 55 would look to head back to the pit area. But it was Ted Christopher, Reggie Ruggiero, Mike Capusetti showing they could run up front when Bob Potter, a front runner, would get crossed up, reel it back in, and gather it back nicely. Mike Christopher was running strong when brother Ted would go to the outside when Christopher would cut a tire and slam the wall hard. The battle of the Christophers occurred a little further down the racetrack with Mike Capusetti, Georgitis, and Leach was now upside down in the front straightaway.
Gary Leach's day has ended with disaster with car number 64. As things got back to green, it was Berry holding off Ruggiero, looking for the checker, and Jeff Berry would take down the win. The Pro Ford Mini Modified saw Sam Stern develop a problem initially on the start. It'd be a mad scramble on by as out in front, the story was soon being told. Savory, Meservey, and Stern would battle back in rows of 3 as they head in turn number 1. It was Stern to the bottom, Savory running the outside, but Sam Stern would end up in the winner.